Right now, we are getting some perspective and insight on the increasing violence we're seeing on Bay Area streets from those who are in the streets. We're talking to first responders, but not the ones you may be thinking of.
Yeah, these are people working on the ground in the community to prevent crime. It's part of our ongoing series, Race in America. We are committed to having honest and uncomfortable conversations around race and racism. Here's our own Marcus Washington and Monty Poole from our sister station, NBC Sports Bay Area.
They know the streets. They're on the front line every day, fighting and working for the community. Eddie Zhang, formerly incarcerated, is the founder of Oakland's New Breath Foundation, which supports people impacted by mass incarceration, deportation, and violence. Guy Hudson is a crisis manager for Street Violence Intervention Program in San Francisco's Bayview Hunters Point. And Drew Jenkins, who grew up in the city's Sunnydale projects, is executive director of J&J Community Resource Center.
You speak the language of being able to be over an organization and represent an organization, but you also speak a language of the streets where people understand you and respect you.
It's a word called code switch. You have to code switch. I know how to go downtown like you are right now and go to City Hall and have a suit and a tie on and talk to them, but I can't go to Harbor Road and talk to them the same way I'm talking to them downtown.
And because of who we are, we kind of can feel the energy from the people that we deal with. If one of our young people are mad, he might put his head down because he about to do something that we know, because he don't want us to try to stop him. And then there's times where we might get a call. You know, as if we don't pick up is when, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do what I plan to do. But if they call us and we get them on the phone and we're able to talk to them for a little while, then that's when, we're able to change the dynamics of like somebody's life.
I'm the president and founder of the New Breath Foundation, but on the other end too, it's like I was locked up for 21 years of my life.
At the age of 16, I committed a crime of home invasion robbery. I was the youngest prisoner in San Quentin's maximum security prison.
And it was inside the prison system that when I was able to really learn how to survive first, right, physically, and then to be able to understand that in order for me to gain my physical freedom, I had to invest in this critical thinking education, right? What I always call the acronym is called the CHI, right? Which is culture, history, identity. That's how I'm able to build relationship with them.
What I've learned, at least in my own interaction, is that a lot of these kids have been disappointed by so many people along the way that there is this resentment, this anger, and sometimes distrust. And so how do you guys get through that barrier of distrust besides, letting them know who you are?
Eddie was saying something that just triggered me is about relationships. Really, like Eddie was just telling a story about like an Asian family that was in Double Rock, and they had to put gates on their house and was scared to come outside and everything else. And Eddie called me one day, and I met the lady. There's poodles out there, there's pit bulls out there. So the poodles was messing with the neighbors, and I had to get to the pit bulls to get to the poodles to stop messing with this Asian family. But it built a relationship with them, and they can come outside and they can trust me in it.
A lot of these kids who are poodles, if you will, don't have an outlet, a place to go, things to do. So what do? They find other things that typically lead them down the wrong direction.
Well, one of the things that we do is get them into places where they can open up. So we have started going out to Pismo Beach. You get on the beach and then you don't see nothing but 1,900 acres of straight sand dunes. And then you look to the right and you don't see nothing but water, and it goes further than the eye can see. That's the time where I hit them with the conversation that they never, that I couldn't talk to them about inside the hood. And it's like a reboot. But even when we came back, you had like 2 or 3 days before they start acting up again, but you did have that time, and they are thinking.
I think that's where the consistency of Drew and Guy and all the other folks who's doing violence prevention work is like really being there for them whenever they need it. All those positive stories, all those success stories are not in the newspaper or on the media, and then when this crime happens and when violence happens, then it blows out of proportion and not really accounting for the failure of the school system, the whole employment, the housing issues. It's one thing that we're always asked to take responsibility for our actions, but then the system who asks us to do that don't take responsibility for their actions themselves.
Some of the kids don't seem to really value their life, or not to mention the lives of other people. And some of this bleeds into the gun culture and results is, people sometimes are too quick to pull a gun. How do you guys deal with that element?
2004, October 31st, this will be 18 years for me. I got shot with an AK-47 4 times, got shot at 19 times. While I was on the bed, coming out of it, one of the hardest decisions that I had to make is to tell my youngsters, don't go do nothing. Mentally, you done took everything from me. So the way we were raised is to retaliate immediately. Go get them. Whoever did it, I don't even want to go do whatever you got to do. But I can't be sending a message to my youngsters, stop, put these guns down, and then I turn around and I get shot, and then I'm sending them back out in the street. I'm the protector of my kids, my mother, all the community.
It's people like Drew, me. I'm just saying me, because it makes me feel good, and there's a lot of African-American men across the whole country. It's changing youngsters' lives every day. Sometimes you don't win wars, but you can win battles. Like 5 of us right now, it's 10 of us in this room. Somebody might can talk, it changed one person's life in that room. You really did something. The other 9 might not. But if you change 1 out that 10, you did something.
Hearing it from people who have been there. Watch part 2 of the conversation tomorrow on NBC Bay Area News at 5:30. And you can watch past episodes of our Race in America series and segments right there on our website. Just go to NBCBayArea.com/RaceInAmerica.
Well, tonight is part 2 of our conversation with many of the people on the front lines who try to prevent crime. We're talking about street culture, gun violence, and building relationships within our communities.
Yeah, this is our commitment to having uncomfortable and honest conversations in our ongoing series, Race in America. Joining this conversation with Marcus Washington, Eddie Zhang, founder of the nonprofit New Breath Foundation, Guy Hudson from Street Violence Intervention Program in San Francisco, Drew Jenkins of J&J Community Resource Center, and Monty Poole from NBC Sports Bay Area.
And the thing with Race in America, what we've been able to do is talk about issues, talk about misconceptions within the community, with different communities. You can speak to me not only from what you're trying to teach me and try to help me, but also I know that you've been through what I'm going through.
And we've been in those situations as strong men standing in front of people's with guns, and they know that we're not moving. We are willing to die for what we believe in.
My own experiences, I've run across kids who, you talk to them about different things, and some of the kids don't seem to really value their life, or not to mention the lives of other people. And some of this bleeds into the gun culture.
It's really hard dealing with all these guns and stuff like that. I got shot with an AK-47 4 times, got shot at 19 times. The way we were raised is to retaliate immediately. But I can't be sending a message to my youngsters, stop, put these guns down, and then I turn around and I get shot, and then I'm sending them back out in the streets. You have so much anger when something like that happens to you.
You are the example that you're preaching.
Right. You feel like you're violated as a man when something like that, and how do you defend yourself?
I think the worst thing in the world to me, because I go to schools and I do presentations, is a black man killing another black man because where he live at.
Or what street he walked down.
The street he walked down. Because I done raised youngsters who just, I look at him and I'll be like, dude, what was you thinking before you in jail now for life? What was you thinking before you even went and shot that brother? So to me, it's like what Drew's saying, practice what you preach. Like he just saying, he got shot. I mean, he can send anybody. I can send somebody, anybody you want, but I save lives. I don't take lives. So when it comes to guns, because I done stood in front of them, like you say too. I done stood in front of youngsters, pulling out pistols, finna shoot somebody. I'm like, nah, dude, it ain't happening. You ain't finna shoot dude today.
A lot of what happens on our streets is out of impulse. And I remember about 9-10 years ago, I took a trip to San Quentin, and we talked to some of the inmates there. And I remember one in particular was telling the story about how, he was in there for murder. He was in part of a gang, and that whole retaliatory nature, that was where he was. And he said he didn't understand at the time, but he understands now the impact that he didn't just kill somebody. He said the impact goes out and out and out. How do you make these kids understand that beforehand?
If you don't take a breath and you don't pause, you just like, then you're done. Right?
10 seconds can cost you your whole life.
But if we don't try to understand their trauma or their lived experience, and then just, in the whole street culture and then all this gun culture where people are easily have access to guns, and then they just have that mentality, and that's where the life is not being valued.
You see it so much that it doesn't affect you as much, I think, a lot of times.
But that's the type of normalized violence that we have to address, right? It's not normal, it's abnormal. Then you add on to all this attack on Asian seniors, the women, and then we start getting pitched against each other from that narrative, that very, very narrow narrative, right?
Well, I want to talk about that because I know that the partnership that you all have, and we have heard within the media and just people talking that this hate between the Asian community and the black community. But I think it's more so depending on if I have a view of something and one thing happens and it's like, see, that's what it is.
Everything between Asian and black is not a hate crime. Sometimes it's a victim thing.
Crime of opportunity. We've done this on Race in America, where we see the similarities within our own cultures and communities, and that we don't ever talk about, so we don't know.
I feel like there's good and bad, yin and yang with everything that we do. You got good cops, you got bad cops.
Man, listen to
you got good black people, you got bad black people.
Listen to me.
Bad Asians, good Asians. That's around the board. I got to be the example. I'm helping my Asians off the bus. I'm making sure that the elder Asians, I started a walking club so the neighborhood started seeing me walk with my elder Asians. Then I started,
playing ping pong
I started playing ping pong with them. They started coming in the center. They started playing ping pong against my kids. I mean, these 80, 90-year-old seniors, but they're going back and forth with my kids, But as I do it, the kids start following behind us.
There's a long history of black and Asian cooperation on issues. You can go back to Malcolm X, you can go back to MLK, but when you see some of the things that were depicted on TV and on the video, when you see somebody being attacked, it's easy to form that sort of bias, and that's what you're fighting against. And so what you're doing, though, is the right thing. You're representing people.
But that's all about relationship building, right? And building trust. But so we're not just saying that, we're going to hold this person accountable and that's it. It's like, how do we make sure this person does not do harm again, right? And then also, how do we prevent harm from happening in the first place? And so when we build the relationship, then we know that we got each other, we got us, right?
And I think that's the important thing, I think, for all of you, and what you all are doing is truly being the example, but also what you said is that saving just one. You have to reach out and being consistent, and what you all doing is truly changing lives and really changing the community.
Well, part one of this conversation we've posted online at NBCBayArea.com/Race in America. There you'll also find our previous episodes of this series as well.